Thanks for joining us again for part 2 of our 3-part discussion with Belizean real estate expert Dennis Caye. If you missed the first part, you can catch it right here on our YouTube channels.
In this episode, we are going to discuss Canadians and financing through our partnership with OFX. We think there is a lot of useful information, and we hope that you'll find it beneficial. So please enjoy. So based on your experience, Dennis, what have you found, or how have you found Canadians kind of financing, or how are they making that leap? We could start with the folks that are looking to buy land. How are they working that out financially if they provide you with that information?
Okay, so we have 2 different scenarios there. Most of the time, if my Canadian clients are buying land that includes some sort of seller financing, so they're putting 10% down, 15% down, they normally wire those funds into whatever closing company they use as escrow account. So for example, I use quite extensively Belize Caye Investments. They have an office on Ambergris Caye. Belize Caye Investments has an escrow account in the United States. So they would send that 10% plus closing costs into the escrow account. And then if they're making payments, the seller of the lot could be a Canadian, or he could be an American, or he could be a Belizean. So then we have to look at what's the easiest way for my Canadian clients to take their Canadian dollars and get them exchanged into euros or US dollars or something like that. The other scenario is if they're buying something for cash, which can be a much larger outlay. If they're buying a beachfront lot for say $350,000, we have run into the question, what is the best way for my Canadian clients to then get that money into an escrow account? And to be honest, that's a question I haven't really been able to answer that well. I'm just not familiar with that process as much as I'd like to be. So I would like some help for that.
Well, but go ahead, Trevor.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Well, basically, we have set up a vehicle. It's a partnership with OFX. And as you know, you may not know, but our Canadian dollar really isn't really standing up that strongly against the US dollar, which the Belizean dollar is pegged to. But with our group rate account with OFX, we're able to mitigate some of that cost in terms of the transfer fees, in terms of the actual currency exchange. And I mean, it does help. We found that it's a lot better than a lot of the other FX companies, such as Kingsbridge or even Wise, right? And that allows us to convert our Canadian dollars, send it to the escrow account in US funds, and we bypass a lot of the bank fees, the markup on the actual Canadian dollar. So that we have found that to be extremely helpful.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's basically a Costco of foreign exchange. So the more members we have, the more accounts we have with the partnership, the better our rate is. And that's primarily why we signed up with OFX, because we found that there were a lot of Canadians who were looking to purchase in Belize, just like ourselves. And we did need a vehicle to get the funds down there. And so when you're talking the larger dollar amounts, you do get a better exchange rate the more volume that you exchange. So partnering with OFX definitely made the most sense for us, and I think it would make the most sense for any Canadians looking to purchase down there and having a requirement to send funds.
Okay. Does it have a minimum and maximum limit?
So there's no minimum really, and there's really no maximum. You might have to do it in chunks. 50,000 being, I guess, the max, and then increase from there, or just keep sending multiple exchanges. But there really is.
You can actually set up the account. You can set up there's 2 different ways you can open an account. You can open an account on the personal side of things, or if you're planning to Airbnb and treat this like a business, then you could open up a business account with OFX. And the business accounts actually have a lot more leeway when it comes to, how many transfers you can do at a time. So, if your clients are buying land for $350,000, and if they are buying land, that much land, maybe they are planning on, utilizing it as an Airbnb, that's where a business account may work for them. And then they could send that that chunk of change all in one transfer without being restricted. On the personal side, just due to anti-money laundering,
Right.
so all that sort of fun stuff. Personal accounts do have a bit of a cap. So the first transfer online is capped at 25,000, and then subsequent transfers are capped at 50. But it can be done on the personal side. It would just need to be done in installments. But each installment, of course, you are saving on wire transfer fees because you don't have to go into your bank and send that wire and spend $50 on the sending end. And usually when you send a wire, the receiving party also pays a fee. And I found that the receiving party in these transactions usually wants to put that fee back on.
Right. They want to transfer that too.
Right. I'm with you. Yeah.
Right. So sending a wire as a Canadian could cost you $50 to send it Canadian, and then a $35 US on the receiving part of it. So now you're talking over $100 just in fees to send the money. And to top it all off, you're not even getting a better exchange rate. So
That's right. That's right.
So you're getting shot twice. So you might as well, do the transfers through OFX free of charge, and you're getting the partnership exchange rate. So it's much better to your advantage. And like I said, Trevor and I both use it already. And if we didn't believe in it, we wouldn't use it. So take that for what it's worth. So that covers kind of the land piece of things. I guess if people were looking to build, do you have any clients right now that are building and are kind of going through that process, and how are they financing, or how are they navigating that right now? Maybe you could talk.
Absolutely, Wayne. So if I may, let me back up to this whole exchange rate issue, because I think your Canadian audience would be really interested in this. When the Canadian US dollar is more on par, and it is throughout time, right?
When was that?
A few years ago.
No, I know. For
really
a very
close.
short time. For a very short. Yeah.
So when that happens, the rare event that happens, or let's say when it gets close, when it gets better, we see, of course, a big uptick of Canadian clients buying in Belize. And the larger the spread gets, we see less interest. Not less interest. Let me back up. Just as much interest, but not as many pulling the trigger because of this perceived additional expense. And I say perceived because it's like this. And if you actually do the math, when you look at Ambergris Caye, okay, let's say if you were to buy something today, yes, as a Canadian, you're going to pay X percent more than an American would. But when you look at what's available on the island and you do the math, you know what? If I want a lot in this area, here's how the area has trended the past 10 years. And here's what's happening in the area that's going to cause property values to rise even more. Or by comparison, you look at an area that's kind of dead and not much is happening there. So you're kind of waiting for that good deal to come up. Well, if a good deal comes up and it's 10 or 15% under market value, but you're as a Canadian are saying, oh yeah, but it's going to cost me 20%. You know what? When you're looking at a market like Belize, what I have to do sometimes is jump on a Zoom call with some of my Canadian clients, say, look, in your mind, you have this exchange rate that you're stuck on. But in the long run, because of what you're able to buy at today, put that out over the next 10, 15, 20 years that you're going to use the property. If you wait, there's going to be a cost to wait. You know, you could wait for the exchange rate to bump up 10%. What's happened on the property in the meantime, and if it's even available when you want to buy. So sometimes we have to have the conversation of, is it right to wait? Now, here's another thing you mentioned about financing. It could be that the exchange rate is horrible right now, but if you can finance it, get it under contract, finance it for a year or two, wait for that exchange rate to go up. We know it does. It fluctuates. And then when the time's right for you, when you're comfortable, pull out a bunch of money, pay off the property, and now you kind of like, you went on both sides of the transaction. You kind of saved a little bit on both. Plus, using the OFX, you can save a little bit more. So using those three vehicles, now you got the property and everyone's happy.
Well, I mean, it's like that real estate concept where, sometimes you get clients, many times you get clients who talk about, I don't feel it's right. I still want to do it. I don't feel it's right at this moment. I don't have enough of a down payment. Well, obviously, just like with currency and just like with land, how it appreciates, it's no different. If you don't do it now and you decide to wait for that for that increase in down payment, you may wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long that is. But while you're waiting and trying to increase your down payment, the land that you're actually looking to purchase has doubled.
Mm-hmm.
So you're never going to catch up.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, you're actually going to be losing because that land is going to appreciate so much more quickly than your actual savings that you can actually accumulate during that time.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree with you. Yeah.
I just tell my clients the land appreciation will always move faster than you can save.
Right.
Good point, Wayne. Good point.
That's just the way it's always been. I mean, if you just think about how long it took you to save that money that you have right now, right? Probably took you a bit to save that much. So, if you waited, if you took that time frame and applied it to your property value, it's not going to be the same price. So, definitely some good advice there. So if we can get back to your clients that are actually
building
a build or going through some sort of construction on land right now. How are they navigating that process in your experience?
Yes, that's a good question. So in Belize, you're probably going to get a contract with an individual builder who's going to build a one-off. When you come down to Ambergris Caye, you're not going to see too much neighborhoods or subdivisions where you have a builder building 25, 50 houses. Everything's a one-off in Belize for the most part. Mahogany Bay has a little bit more commonality when it comes to build, but other than that, if my client buys a lot at Secret Beach or anywhere on the island, he's going to interview a builder, get a quote, and then they're going to start to work together individually. Now, the builder will most likely accept payments in stages. So depending on the cost of the project, he's going to get an initial sum down, which then he's going to have to go ahead and hire workers and buy equipment and clear the land and start to go. He would then have stages of payment. So maybe ground pour, footings, walls up, gray in, windows in. He's going to require money at every step of the way. And one of the things I tell my clients is once you pull the trigger and you start to work with a builder, it's really important that you feed those funds as requested, because if you're late feeding the funds for any reason, that builder has to take his workers now and put them somewhere else, and they may not come back. These guys,
that would delay your process for sure.
Yeah. So have in mind, okay, here's the timeline, and I want to make sure my builder is receiving the funds. So that's something, Wayne, that you could help with, because as these large chunks need to come down into country through an escrow account, to a Belize bank account, those funds all have to be wired somehow. We don't accept cash. You're not gonna throw 50 grand in the suitcase and come down. So people have tried.
Definitely stop at customs for sure.
Yeah. Not that people haven't tried, but yet we don't work that way. So so they do need to get this money down in stages. And I have a couple other do's and don'ts working with builders too, but we could save that for another time, I guess. But yeah, those funds coming down do need to be transferred legally through wire transfers.
A question that comes up from time to time in terms of timelines from the builders. Now I know there's different builders and they operate differently and so on, and some get stuck and so on. But in terms of timelines, how strict are they? So in other words, from time of purchase, time of start construction, time to end, are they pretty much on track? What sort of delays that they're not? Okay.
No.
Okay.
And no fault of the builder per se. For example, a builder might have 3 or 4 crews working on 3 or 4 projects. All of a sudden, there's a delay in getting dried wood for this particular project. No fault of his own. He can't get dried wood for another 60 days. So now that crew is pulled off your house. They're put somewhere else. Well, all of a sudden the wood comes in. Well, now he's got to try to juggle something else. So a lot of times when you hear of stories of, oh my goodness, the builder took this long, it's true. And it's not because they're necessarily negligent. They don't have the economy of scale that we would have in the United States and Canada. They don't have this clockwork where every day is accounted for. It's a very fluid build market down there. So I would plan on it taking longer. But also what you could do, and what I highly recommend, is if you're not there for the build, have somebody as a go-between, have somebody as a project manager that every week they go to the build site, they take some photos, they're sort of like a little bit of a liaison between you and the builder. It just helps give you a little bit more comfort level. They do this in some projects on the island. In fact, I work very well with a guy right now in Palmyra Woods. He's doing that for some clients. He's kind of like their eyes and ears, and he's taking a small fee, but well worth a small fee for that comfort level.
Perfect.
Yeah, good advice there for sure.